Ojikalu will take the floor and Senator Adam Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, distinguished colleagues. My name is Asue Ighodalo, Senator representing Cross River South, and the co-sponsor of this all-important motion, sponsored by myself, Senator Osita Ongu, and Senator Mpigi Barinada. Mr. President, on the 20th of November this year, I read a motion on the floor of this hallowed chamber calling on the review and the investigation to the slow pace of work on the Odukpani-Itu Federal Highway. Flowing from that directly, the resolutions passed by this Senate was that the Senate Committee on Works invites the three contractors, Messrs. Sematech, Messrs. Julius Berger, and Messrs. CCECC, Nigeria Limited, to a hearing. That hearing held the following week and was presided by the #1 presiding officer of the National Assembly himself, the Senate President. In that engagement and at that hearing, out of the three contractors, only one contractor was present, Messrs. Sematech, Nigeria Limited. The presiding officer, the president of this Senate, directed at that meeting that another hearing be held and that the other two contractors must be present, including the Minister for Works. Senior members of the Committee of Works were at that meeting, members such as Senator Ningi, Senator Alero, all present. The next invitations were duly sent, and at the second meeting, Messrs. CCECC were there, Messrs. Sematech was there, the minister himself was there, but Julius Berger were once again absent. At that second hearing, we gave another break and did a third invitation, asking for Julius Berger to make themselves available. Distinguished colleagues, it is very sad to note and to state that Julius Berger has refused to attend these investigative hearings. Julius Berger, they bidded for a job, they were awarded a job, they were paid taxpayers' money, they showed up on site briefly, and they left the site. For whatever reason they may have done that, they have to come and tell the Nigerian people. Julius Berger, even though they may have their origins outside this country, can never try what they are doing in Nigeria, in Germany, or wherever in Europe they originate from. It behoves on this Senate that we establish and utilize the powers and the constitutional powers that are given to us to invite the gentleman, the managing director of Julius Berger, to appear before us so that we can look into this matter and give it the necessary conclusion. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Senator Ojikalu.
My attention, that is your job, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity you have given to me. I was there at Soko in the meeting, and Julius Berger refused to come. They have been doing it in the 9th Senate. Most people summon Julius Berger, they refuse to come. And I urge this Senate to punish them. They cannot be doing this. If they're a construction company, they must listen to the parliament. It's not only Julius Berger. Even some of our ministers are not answerable to the committees. And they will insult our chairman. And they will insult people working in the Senate. You will invite a minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Some of them will not listen to the chairman of your committee, Mr. President. And enough is enough. We should query these ministers and ask Mr. President to drop them. How can a chairman of a committee be looking for a minister for 2, 3 days, 4 days, they will not answer phone? So they are doing the same thing Julius Berger is doing. We are protected under Section 28, 88 and 89 of the Constitution as amended, 1999 Constitution. We cannot be taking this. This is a parliament. Unless they want us to be a study area, we become a study area. We are lawmakers, and they should respect this place. It's not only Julius Berger, it's also your ministers and DGs. Many chairmen of parastatal, including some of the federal government parastatal. The chairman have been telling me, I will go for a committee meeting, I expect to see a minister, the minister will not come. And I'm not the chairman, I can't do anything. It's a hard time that any minister, the the parliament must put a performance record for all the ministers. And we must report to the commander-in-chief. Because we are not here for jokes, Mr. President. Please, I want to thank my colleague, Osamgu, for bringing this motion. Because it is annoying that you will send us to do something and we'll be looking for a minister. I called one minister throughout yesterday because I had a meeting and message from my committee. That minister have not answered you now. Just now I'm talking, I saw his missed call for 24 hours. Is that right? That is not good, Mr. President. We have to use our powers. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to voice how I feel this morning. I feel like fighting, but I can't fight. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
But somehow, my views are totally and fundamentally different. Your Excellency, I'm happy you are now seated when I have this opportunity to speak. I associate myself 100% with some of the sentiments expressed by distinguished Senator Dixon. That these chambers is not a place you bring contractors to. Because by doing that, we give them an undeserved respect. But my first question, why I say I'm happy you are the one on seat. I was a governor in Edo State, the way we have a federal government at the federal level. When I issued or I approved the recommendation of a tenders board or procurement process, and a contract is awarded, and I confirm from the Ministry of Finance that money has been paid, I go around to check if the money paid, if the job being done is up to the value of the money that has been paid. And should I find that the contractor is no longer working, even when we have paid, it is not the House of Assembly that helps me to bring an irresponsible contractor to justice. The first thing that we do, following the laws of procurement, because there's always a contract. In that contract, there are usually clear provisions as to what should be done when money has been paid and the contractor abandons site, or if the contractor is at site, is working at such a low pace of work that the job might not be completed within the time frame provided for in the contract agreement. But my people have a saying that when an elderly man has shared akara with a small child, he loses respect in the eyes of the child. That we are discussing a contractor here who appear to be more powerful than the Ministry of Works that awarded this contract. I think these two people who are arresting the president, they are part of those who have spoken. Asuko, we will issue warrant of arrest for lawyer, SAN.
I'm with you.
What do we do when a senator left his seat while a distinguished senator is on his feet? In order to confuse and try to persuade the Senate president, and you are diverting his attention. It is my privilege to be heard clearly without disturbing the president. Yes, you are right. And Asuko, I don't have to be a boxer to be able to keep you under control. So, sir, Mr. President, I am sure in your 8 years as governor, you have had cause to deal with contractors who collected money and thought it was a Christmas gift. Please, do I have the permission of the House? Osita, please. So, sir, my first question, who is complaining? Is it the committee that awarded the contract? Is the minister complaining? If the minister is not complaining, or is pretending to complain, should we not make exactly the same anger on the minister as well as his agent, the contractor? When a man who gives you a job can no longer call you to order, there are questions to be asked, and there are hard answers that must be provided. The man who gives contract cannot be helpless unless he compromises his powers. So the anger of my brother, distinguished Senator Orji, should be directed at the Federal Ministry of Works. And like somebody said, even petty contractors collect money and walk away. And there are no consequences. And I want to ask for those of us who have had the privilege to give jobs, even in our personal capacity, when you pay your contractor with evidence and you have agreement that says once you pay a job is done, if the contractor doesn't do it, why are you not invoking those sections not only to terminate, but to use law enforcement? Because this is not a civil matter, it's a contractual obligation that can have a criminal implication. And then get the security information agencies to recover the portion of the money that has been paid and for which no job has been done. For the committee to now be the one chasing a contractor and the federal ministry seems to be indifferent, suggests that we are directing our anger not to the source of the problem, but to the consequences arising from official neglect by those who are empowered to enforce contract agreement. I therefore submit, sir, with profound respect, that the Honorable Minister of Works is as implicated as any other person. Because in the first instance, he is the one representing the executive in awarding this contract. He has a story to tell as to why his contractor has become more powerful than him. Until we do that, I think we are being misled into chasing a contractor. Who is this contractor that is so powerful? More than the federal government, more than EFCC, more than all the agencies that are put in place to deal with people who are involved in criminal embezzlement of public funds. So I submit, sir, that everything we have said of Julius Berger, we should say even more to the Ministry of Works that awarded the contract. There is no evidence they have the power to revoke the contract, and they have the power under the law to get that part of the payment for which they have not worked, to recover that money to public treasury and award the contract to another contractor under clear terms of contract execution.
Thank you.
So let us not.
Thank you.
Let us not shy away from the root cause of the problem. May we not engage anyone that is beyond our capacity to bring under control. Don't hire who you cannot fire.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let me.
Mr. President, I was in the meeting when Julius Berger was asked to come. They failed to come for the first time. And the minister was there. And we decided that we should give them a second chance. A letter was written to them by the clerk of the committee. Again, they failed to come. But I thought, Mr. President, the committee has all the powers to compel Julius Berger to appear before the committee. We don't have to bring this issue to this hallowed chamber. Yeah, no. Let me learn, please. Then you can talk. Under the 1999 Constitution, the committee has the power to compel any agency of government, any minister, to appear before it. And if he fails to appear before it, we can invoke that particular section of the Constitution and even cause him to be arrested and to be brought to either the committee or to the chamber. So we have not exhausted that at the committee level. So I believe we should first and foremost deal with the matter at the committee level. Compel Julius Berger to appear before the committee and hear why they could not complete the road after collecting colossal amount of money. As far back as 2020, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I was on this particular road on oversight, and at that time, all the contractors working on that particular road were on site except Julius Berger. When we came back to Abuja, we called them, and they said they have submitted a request for variation because of escalation of prices. The ministry is yet to give them a go-ahead. And this has been the matter since then. Mr. President, I'm not in support of what Julius Berger is doing. What they are doing is certainly condemnable, but bringing them to this chamber or discussing them about, discussing the issue in this chamber will amount to elevating them. We should deal with it at the committee level. I also submit, Mr. President.
My name is Dr. Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. Mr. President, let me begin with the issue of procedure. The committees, of course, derive their powers from the Senate standing rules. The Constitution gives the National Assembly such powers. There is no way, there is nowhere in other paper, nor in the powers and privileges of the National Assembly, does a committee chairman is saddled with the capacity to compel. It is the presiding officer that confers. And therefore, when a matter of this nature is brought before a house, the committee now seeks the mandate of the entire Senate. The mandate of the entire Senate is quite different from the mandate of a committee superintended by a chairman. So I don't want us to dilute this matter. This matter, Mr. President, should not be diluted. It is a serious problem. And it is not just Julius Berger, like I said. Most of the committees have been having a running battle with agencies, MDAs, because they don't think this National Assembly is so serious. I don't know how we arrived at this particular situation. I was a committee member. I was at the hearing, and I raised this particular matter, whereby a committee, a competent committee, will send an invitation. Sometimes even permanent secretaries will not come. Sometimes the ministers will not come. Sometimes they send far inferior officers. And they come, and our hands are so tight. Mr. President, this is an independent legislature. This is not a subsection of the presidency. The National Assembly is an independent body. Look at Section 4 of powers and privileges of the National Assembly. And they can make laws on anything, over anything, at every given time. And therefore, I summon anybody, whether you are in government, whether you are not in government, whether you are a businessman, and here we are saddled with a very unfortunate malady. Ask any committee chairman, whether he's not having issues with attendance of head of NDAs or ministries. But somehow, because of the Nigerian factor, you try to compel, you try to use their power. People who come from all sorts of directions. Please, he's a member of our party. Please, he's a Yoruba man.
Please is from Bauchi State. And these are happening, these are recurring dismal in our functions. And therefore, I have not seen for a very long time when Julius Berger appeared before the Senate. I have not seen for a very long time. And when we said, when Senator Alero, with all sense of responsibility, said the committee should, and I want Alero to tell us, how will the committee do? What can the committee do? The only way the committee can do, the only thing, is to reach out to a presiding officer, and compel. But here, the committee is not actually asking the buy-in of a presiding officer. Mr. President, the committee is not asking for a buy-in of presiding officer. The committee is asking for a buy-in of the Senate. The Senate, Mr. President, is bigger than a presiding officer. Once senators are in concurrence as to what we do, as long as we do not violate these rules, as long as the rule is complementary to the Constitution, the presiding officer cannot say no. The presiding officer, of course, is just but one of us. And therefore, this particular motion is not calling for a buy-in of a presiding officer. It's calling for a buy-in of the Senate in its entirety. And therefore, the question is whether or not the Senate agrees with the resolution and the fact of the matter. Mr. President, lastly, if we continue to dilute matters of this nature, like this, in a manner that we're trying to do, then you go out there, you are taken for a ride, nobody respects you, and therefore we have to look inwards. Why are we getting some of this expectation? Why are we not getting the required attention from MDS? Is it about the institution? Is it about individuals? Is it about our processes? Then we need to sit down as a House, as a Senate, to reflect going for what we need to do. But so far, the impression out there is that anybody can refuse to come and nothing happens.
A lot has been said on this matter, and a lot of sentiments and emotions have been evoked. We can see that there's clear anger at the clearly uncooperative attitude of a contractor. What I'm saying should not be construed to mean a support of that. I want to align myself respectfully, even though I agree with the sentiments and emotions and some of the reasons given. I want to respectfully align myself with the position earlier canvassed by Senator Alero in terms of procedures. Let me begin by saying that with the concerns we are now hearing about even officials of the executive arm not honoring invitations and summons, there are so many reasons we can't disclose fully here about what has to be done differently by members, by committees, and also the leadership. I believe that those matters, as we say in my place, and the German will say, the stomach of a crocodile should not be opened in the marketplace. Because you don't know if you will see, you can't be too sure what you will find inside. So I will respectfully suggest that when we have an executive session, properly convened, at the right time, we can examine all those issues that have to do with conduct, that have to do with standards, and so on, by members, by committees, by chairmen, and by the leadership. Now, coming to this, I am a believer of the fact that this plenary, the plenary of the Senate, is a sacred place. And that's why I've never been in support. It's only very rare cases that I will support a situation where even people come here on plenary to make statements. This plenary, anytime we are meeting in plenary and the mace is lying there bearing the insignia of the country, solemn, it means that this is the meeting of Nigeria. This is the meeting, anytime we are meeting in plenary, is a meeting of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by its elected senators. So that is why I've always not been in support. That is why I agree with the views by Senator Alero that in the case of disobedience or recalcitrance by people invited, that the committees already have by the rules, by our rules, and by also the Constitution, the powers have been vested in the committees to compel attendance. To compel attendance. The procedure is there, and they will make an application to the presiding officer, who will now sign the necessary proceedings. So I agree that even discussing a corporate entity, no matter how big, no matter how, we're elevating them. That's why I say we should protect the sanctity of the plenary. So to that extent, I spoke in support of this road. I sat in those proceedings. I saw the minister. I attended to give support to it. But I think that we should not elevate a company to the level where senators of the Federal Republic would begin to talk about. Our committees have the powers to deal with it. If we need to issue a warrant, if the committee needs to compel the attendance with a warrant, the powers are already there. They will make a necessary application to the presiding officer, even today. But I caution that we should not, even in that, we should not take decisions out of emotions or out of anger. There should be effort made to put across so that this Senate, like equity, and equity like a court, should not act in vain. We should not act in vain. Where a company, no matter how big, will now come and begin to, no. I think that's why I support Senator Alero's position. I agree with my good friend. It's one of the first times we'll be disagreeing, but we are united. All of us are united.
Gone round and round and round and round on the same issue. First, I want to agree with majority of you who said that this issue ought not to be discussed in the plenary. You have your constitutional powers, and you have to be very well versed with your constitution. At any point in time, the power of a legislator is in the abiding laws, and particularly the ground norm, which is the Constitution. So if you're a chairman of a committee and you don't know how to use the Constitution or your powers, you don't need to bring it to the plenary. All you simply do is to let us know that you don't know what to do, and we change you and give it to another senator who knows how to use. I'm mentioning this because some people take the job of the parliament in a joke. I must tell you that the only thing that evidences democracy is the parliament. In every government, you have the judiciary, you have the executive. But once you have the parliament, that is a democratic administration. The parliament, in law, has the power to turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man. And even this constitution, if you look at section 88, section 89 particularly, up to section 89C, it says that you can summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence at any place or to produce any document or anything in his possession or under his control That is, your power is so wide. You can summon any person in Nigeria. These contractors are in Nigeria, whether they are foreigners or not. You can summon any person. And the powers are given both to the plenary as well as the committees. So even the committees have the powers to do so. But where your efforts fail, that's when you approach the Speaker or approach the Senate President to say that we need to issue a warrant of arrest. And you must also indicate who is going to execute the warrant. Is it the police? Or is it an agency of EFCC? Or is it the DSS? We are lawmakers. I heard also Senator Jusakalo's submission was very clear. That is not only JB, that it extends to even heads of parastatals and ministers. Personally, I was a minister. There was never a time I was invited by the House of Representatives or the Senate and I did not appear in person. Because when I was in the A Senate, I hated the idea of ministers sending assistant directors to go and appear in the parliament. Luckily today, the president of the country is himself a former senator. The vice president is a former senator. Even the first lady, a former senator. There is no way you use your powers and they will not understand. And you have to understand that your attitude determines your altitude. If you do not exert your powers, then why then are we here? So since this matter has reached us, I believe we should go into the prayers and we should not discuss anymore. If the prayers are strong enough, there are prayers here. Distinguished colleagues, do we take a single prayer and avoid the multiple prayers contained herein, almost 6 of them, to say that this Senate do resolve to issue a warrant of arrest to the managing director of JV to appear before the Senate Committee on Works to explain what they have done with the finances of the federal government given under their control. If we have power to appropriate, we have power to oversight. We also have powers to follow the money to the letter. My opinion is that the discussion is totally unnecessary. We should have used 5 minutes to finish with this issue. The Senate has no business discussing a contractor. This also shows evidence of proper supervision by the ministry. So what we are going to do is that since we have summoned the company, and the company has rebuffed the summons of the National Assembly by implicating this Senate, then we should immediately take the next step of issuing a warrant of arrest to compel the managing director of JB to appear before the Senate committee. And then you fix a date. Those in support of this say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has authorized the Senate President to sign a warrant compelling the managing director of Julius Berger to appear before the Senate Committee on Works on a stated date to be so named. And then the report will be made available thereafter to this August Assembly, failing which we shall go further to do the needful as prescribed in the Nigerian Constitution. Those in support of the resolution say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.